So how she phrased her restaurant experience was lead and motivate fellow employees through my position as head waitress. So what's the key words in that sentence? Lead and motivate, right? So what employer wouldn't want someone who can lead and motivate other employees? And then in the next line she said, collaborated with owners and management, to set up events. Well, the key, collaboration, right? So use these action words in each experience, and you can still say the same thing. I mean, you can say that you worked in a restaurant. You can say that, you were an Eller ambassador, or, you worked at Frost. But think, like, what skills did I use to do this? And what employers are looking for are transferable skills, which means whoever hires you gets all the good things that come with you, right? How you think about things, how you solve problems, how you come up with creative ideas. So these are the more important aspects of your resume. So when you look down a good resume on the left side, it says collaborated, analyzed, envisioned, things like that, and then you give the specific detail. Does that make sense? But now we get to the part where this fits in. What makes what makes you interesting? What makes you different? So I spent over half my life in Chicago. So if I'm in Chicago and I'm looking for a job and I pass out my resume and it says Chicago on it, big deal, right? I mean, everybody in Chicago is from Chicago. But if I'm in Tucson and I pass my resume out and it says Chicago on it, I will bet you somebody's going to say, oh, Cubs, White Sox, thick pizza, thin. I was there in the winter. It was cold. So, I mean, all you're trying to do is get in a conversation with someone. So, in this case, with, a broad experience, there's a couple ways. The PowerPoint's up. So I mean, again, so these are the transferable skills. So what you want to highlight isn't that, you had a good time, that you ate good food, that you hung out with your friends. It's, able to work with diverse team members. It's being immersed in a different culture. It's coming away with a different mindset. So has everybody gone abroad already in this room? So when you came back, didn't you feel that you had changed a little bit? That you just kind of look at the world through different eyes? That's the point. That's the point you have to get across. So, and when you're talking to an employer in an interview, these are the points that you want to bring out. So, I mean, if everything you've ever done is in Tucson, Arizona, and someone else has had these wonderful abroad experiences and immersed themselves in different culture and, been in big cities and had to navigate their way around, then, that's what you want to highlight. Does that make sense? So, can give you an advantage. And again, it's like, it's a global perspective. It's different ways, to answer questions. One year I was an interviewer for Eller admissions, and the student came in and we asked them, when was the time that you showed leadership? And he says, I grew up in California. I was on the state championship golf team. And he said, on the first hole, our best golfer was really nervous. And I stepped up, and I wasn't the best golfer, but I stepped up and I hit a drive right down the middle. So we're like, good story, right? And then like 5 minutes later, when was the time you struggled? And he's like, same tournament, 8th hole. He's like, I hit my drive to the right. I'm under the trees. I mean, now this stuff's getting old, right? So, I mean, one golf experience is awesome. Your global experience you can talk about, part-time job. So, I mean, that's why we tell you to get involved, so that you have all these different experiences that you can pull from. So, your experience, study abroad, and how that kind of compares with an internship, working with students in a foreign language, learning in a different environment than U.S., using new technology systems, software and media, getting around a new city. I mean, wasn't that a challenge? I mean, especially if you didn't have any language skills, negotiating. So, I mean, that's a skill that you're going to have with you the rest of your life. And, in an internship, how would you highlight it? Different corporate culture, adapting to a manager's style, working with coworkers in a foreign language. I mean, same kind of similar stuff. So employers, Eller, everybody's looking for a certain type of candidate. And is grade point average important on your resume? Sure, because what it means to an employer is, you're a full-time student. So if you've devoted yourself to something and you've put in your effort in it and you've gotten good grades, then, when you apply yourself to something, you're going to do well. But on the other hand, I mean, if your grade point average isn't exactly what you want it to be, but you have great experiences, maybe you worked and you paid your way through school, then that's the kind of things you want to highlight, right? Because because it's all about time management. If you can work 20, 30 hours a week and you can get pretty good grades in school, I mean, that's an impressive candidate on its own. So I mean, everybody doesn't have to fit into this formula, but what they're looking for is someone, when they put themselves to a task doing something, they do well. And they're involved on campus. And why is it in being involved on campus or having global experience important? Because when employers hire people in the past, the best employees they've had have been people that are involved, and they've been in clubs, they've been leaders in clubs. So this is what they look for. So they're looking for your grade point average, they're looking for involvement, they're looking for cool, broad experiences. But I mean, really important, you have to word it properly. So can we go again, Gabby? So one little thing on format. So on the top, you have your education section, right? Because that's what you are. You're a full-time student. And you could put your broad experience under education, but make sure you get that day, the location out to the side so people can see it. So someone might just say to you, "Oh, you spent the summer in Spain? You took classes in Spain? What was that like? Tell me about that." And then you're in a conversation. But so you could. Well, that's one of your choices. You could put it under education. But if this experience was amazing and you came back thinking about things differently, global perspective, then you can put it in your main experiences and bullet point it and talk about it. And talk about, immersing yourself in different cultures, problem-solving skills, team building. If you were in a group of 10, 15 students, I've heard a lot of students come back and they say, I became very close with the people that were on that trip, and they were my friends, forever. So that's kind of what you're thinking. But it's always the bigger picture, the bigger picture stuff. And now we're talking about in your resume, we talked about that. In an interview, use examples from abroad, answering situational questions. Clearly articulate. I mean, that is so important in an interview. If you can articulate what you're passionate about, if you can articulate, even if you don't know what you want to do, that you're excited and passionate about the hunt and going out there and looking for things, and you went abroad. Who wants to work abroad afterwards? I think we want to graduate. That's like a really good goal. But I mean, how are you going to make this happen, right? So I mean, you made contacts there. You met people. Keep in touch with those people. And and you're not asking them for anything. That's kind of a rule. But you just keep in touch with them, and ask them questions. Maybe you're thinking about adding another major, or maybe you're thinking about you're an MIS major, and will relevant experience will it help me? These are kind of questions you can send emails to people, and the idea is just so you're kind of always on their mind, right? So then when you graduate, these are options for you. I mean, you have all these little contact points that might turn into something good for you. Okay. So, and this is what we were just talking about. Email professors, classmates, coworkers, bosses. I mean, keep in touch with this. So a little bit, I can't help when I get in front of people to talk a little bit about the job search, because everybody here wants a job, right? So, I mean, kind of the low-hanging fruit is the career fair and Wildcat Job Link, right? And the reason I call it low-hanging, because it's easily accessible. I mean, you go into the career fair on the 24th and 25th, I hope everyone's going, and there's going to be 160 employers. And if you go up to Altria's table or you go up to Microsoft's table, all you have to do is impress this person, right? And they have the power to give you an internship or a job. But if you're uploading your resume and cover letter online, who are you sending these to, right? And I think oftentimes when students don't hear back, you think that they went with another candidate or someone with a higher grade point average. I will bet you money 9 out of 10 times they never looked at your resume. So what we're talking about here, networking, this is super important just to get evaluated. So keep in touch with people, go to the career fairs, get people's cards, follow up, thank them. I mean, this is what sets you apart from other people, right? And this abroad experience sets you apart from other people. But you have to highlight it properly. You have to be able to talk about it. LinkedIn is awesome for a search. So say, we can do this two ways. Say you want to work in Los Angeles, and you go to the career fair, and there's no companies from Los Angeles at the career fair, and you're like, well, what am I going to do, right? You can go online, click go on LinkedIn on your profile, click to advanced search, and then say you want a marketing job in Los Angeles, put in keyword marketing, and then put in 90210, and it's a 50-mile search radius, and search, and what you'll get is a list of people and companies that are in the marketing industry in Los Angeles. And then you just reach out to them from an informational standpoint. So you're not asking them for anything, but you try to connect with them, and then erase that canned, Stacy wants to add you to her network, and say something relevant. So say, I'm very interested in marketing, I'm very interested in moving back to Los Angeles, would love 20 minutes of your time to learn more about what you do every day. So the goal is you meet people at the career fair, you meet people abroad, you keep in touch with these people, and you meet people on LinkedIn. So maybe when you come to me for career advising, and 6-7 months from now, I say, well, what's going on with you? And you're like, well, I got all this stuff going on. I met people at the career fair, and I actually had an interview, and they offered me an internship, but I don't know if that's what I want. And then I've been talking to people on LinkedIn, and had some really good conversations and networking that way. And then my abroad experience, that's turned out to be really great, because I met these students, and now I'm looking to see who they know, and I'm reaching out to people, and you just become an advocate for yourself. So, Vanessa's in charge of this program, but also, are you aware of the new career coaches that we hired here at Eller? So for the past 4 years, I was kind of the career coach to all Eller majors. And then what we did, so I'm still here, but we hired people that have industry experience in the various industries and majors. So we have an MIS career coach, we have a marketing career coach, we have a sales career coach. So these are people, we've been training them for 2 weeks, and these are people that can not only help you with your job search or figure out what you want to do, or after you graduate, but they can help you with your resume. I can help you with your resume. We can help you with your wording. But to me, the key thing is the wording. Stay away from just saying, I had a student one time that for a bullet point, he said, I picked up golf balls because he worked at a driving range. Well, that might be physically what he did, but how's that going to help him get a career job, right? But if he talks about having to work in a stressful situation, dealing with 450 members, demanding members that want what they want when they want it, and he developed this skill set where he can deal with people that way, that's something that'll help him in anything he wants to do, right? Any questions about anything? So let me hear, where did you have a question? No? No. So where did, yes?
What do you get in contact with these career coaches?
How do you can actually make appointments with them on ESMS. So where you would go to make an appointment with your academic advisor, just click on the tab and career coach will come down, and then you can pick the career coach that you want to meet. And think too, your resume is never done. It's almost like a living document. So it's gonna keep changing. You're gonna add experiences. You're gonna take experiences off. You're gonna want to tweak your experiences for each application. So I think one disconnect between students and employers. Who just wants a good job when they get out of college with a good company? Right? But that's not what an employer wants. An employer wants someone who has specifically reached out to them, found them, and and makes a unique connection. So before you go to the career fair, the 24th and 25th, you can go on the Career Services website. Yes?
Is that in September, the 24th?
Yes, so it's coming up pretty quick, and it's 2 days. So you can go on the Career Services website and you can see all the companies that are coming. And then what I would suggest is go through this list and pick 5 or 7 companies that you're interested in and research them, right? So just like this opportunity sets you apart, makes you a little bit different. If you go to the career fair and you walk up to AT&T and you say, oh, you're here for your business-to-business program, or are you the leadership program in Atlanta, you're way ahead of a student who's walking up to AT&T and saying, so what do you do, right? They want you to be prepared, and they want you to follow up. And just think at each level, you're trying to separate yourself from all the other candidates. Think of each conversation, each application as unique experience. You've researched this company, you're trying to make a connection with them, you know what they do, you know why you're excited about possibly interning with them, and then that conversation's over, and then go to the next one. And now you've researched them, you kind of gather yourself, and you don't want to come off as someone who's just meeting companies, kind of passing out your resume. So look like you're doing it with thought. Any other questions? No? Is everyone going to the career fair? Are you going to be able to verbalize your abroad experience? So anyone want to try? Tell me what the amazing thing is, and what was something. Anybody want to crack at it? Are you brave? One of you ladies? No?
Typically,
Okay.
well, I went to Hong Kong, so I only want to go to Hong Kong when I was young. And I watch a lot of movies and then pictures, but Hong Kong is like beyond movie and picture can tell you. It's like phenomenal. And I happened to roommate with one of like the best roommate ever. She grew up here, but then she able to speak Cantonese and Mandarin, so she took me around because she's go back to Hong Kong every summer. So through my internship, I was working with like 5 other interns, so I got exposed into like all the kids that are around the world. So one of them came from China, one of them from Canada, one of them are from Hong Kong, and the other one from Ohio, and the other one. But then we learned how to collaborate and do teamwork.
Okay, so now I like what you're saying. A lot of what you said was, I mean, it was interesting.
Personal experience.
Right, personal experience. But I mean, I would say if you're just in a short conversation with someone, start talking about how you learn to collaborate. And, you know, I mean, that's the meat of the stuff that you learned, right? So I mean, a little bit of personal detail, but then the important part is like you know, what you got out of it. So I just went through, at Career Services, we hired an ambassador, and you know, several Eller people applied, and they're all pretty good candidates, but we thought this one was a done deal, this one girl, and then we interviewed a final girl, and I mean, she just blew this interview out of the water. I mean, it was amazing. She had great questions, and that's something too, always have questions. So when you're in an interview, when you're in an interview, they're in control, right? So what if you give someone your resume, and they don't even notice that you had an abroad experience, and then they ask you all these questions in an interview, and it never came up to talk about your broad experience. So I mean, when they ask you, do you have any questions, that would be a great time to bring it up, right? So I mean, you can kind of structure your questions that bring up things that you wanted to talk about that you didn't get a chance to do during the interview.
So
What
would an example be? Like if they say to you, do you have any questions, at the very end, like, do you have questions for me? Like how would you state a question to them about your experience?
So I mean, so say you saw like in the job description that problem-solving skills were important, and then they asked you these behavioral questions, and you kind of had your broad experience in the back of your mind, but you didn't get to bring it up. So, you know, then when they say, do you have any questions for me? I mean, you could say, well, you know, I saw in the job description that you talked about problem-solving skills. And in my abroad experience, when I went to Brazil, I mean, this like really elevated my problem-solving skills to a new level. You know, I had to do this, I had to do this, I had to find my way around. One of my friends got sick, and we didn't speak the language, and I had to, you know, navigate and get him, you know, get him to the hospital or whatever. So, I mean, just, you know, I mean, just kind of a way to get your...
How's that a question, though, like for the interviewer?
I mean, it's more, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a question. It's just like a continuing of the conversation. So I mean, like a comment or a question. Yes?
I think they will notice because I have like 4 different persons look at my resume for the last week because I went interview with Vanguard and they noticed. And then I have an interview chat yesterday with like another guy from the Kick-Off Career Service.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing that they looked at, they noticed right away that, oh, you just been in Hong Kong, that's a cool place, and then they just start a conversation.
Right.
So
And I mean, and that's...
They just, it popped up right away because it's on top, the current
Right.
current event, so they just like see it right away. So
Yeah, and I mean, and picture your resume format, and then picture like on the, you know, I mean, you could, if every experience you've had is in Tucson, Arizona, then having a separate location column might not be important, right? But if you've done an internship in Brazil, or you've been to Hong Kong or whatever, then you want that location out on the right side. You want it boldened so people can see it. I mean, sometimes I've like worked with students on their resume and looked at it, and we've been talking for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden I'll realize, oh, you did the Brazilian cohort, because it's like down on the bottom, Brazil is in the paragraph. I mean, one of the pet peeves I have with resumes is dates. Are dates really important? But sometimes you look at someone's resume and the dates are gigantic, or they're like really highlighted. I mean, and they're really not important, right? I mean, unless someone's looking for like a gap in your experiences. So instead of highlighting the date, highlight locations, highlight names of companies. I mean, it all falls under, you know, what's interesting, what can I, you know, dangle out there. I was in a workshop one time and Deloitte said a resume is just an appetizer. It's to get someone's attention. You just put on there what's interesting and you kind of dangle it out there and you hope it gets you into a conversation. Yes, sir.
All right, like, say for like the career fair, say if like your resume is 2 papers, do you staple it?
You don't want a 2-page resume. You want a 1-page resume. And that, I have a lot of interaction with employers, and they're very clear, 1-page resume. And then sometimes students will say to me, but I got all these good experiences. I mean, it's their game, and we have to play it. So, that's what they want, 1 page. Any other questions? No? Was this helpful? Awesome. So what we're going to do, if you want, stay around, and I can actually look at your resumes individually, and Gabby can help and Jenny can help. So if not, have a great night. Thanks for coming, and hopefully we'll see you in a career coaching session.